Tracer. Oh, this one.
Yes.
You mentioned in the comms that Tracer called for the Nano.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping though that this Nano would have already known that that was the play, or even better, tell the Tracer, "Hey, I want to Nano you." It's really important that, especially in between fights, that as an Nano player we hit tab and we say when we think, okay, who's the person that we Nano, and over time it'll become faster and faster when you realize who's the target.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, we had like 5 minutes to talk about, here are the pros and cons. But over time, you want to get much faster, and just eventually, you're just going to be relying on your gut.
Right.
But first, have that exercise where you say, okay, who is my optimal Nano target right now?
Okay. So what would you say are some factors that you do? Now, obviously, communication is key because you have to not only like prepare them for it, but remember, people when they're nanoed need to act in a different way, in a different manner,
Yes.
in a more aggressive manner to get more value out of it. So if you nano a Tracer versus you nano the Tracer, but you give her 5 seconds heads up, you're gonna get way more value out of the latter.
Way more value.
But what other, like, besides just communication, like, who do you look to nano? Like, what are some general guidelines? Because a list is nice, Tracer, Genji, Winston, but like, why those heroes? Why not others? What are your criteria for that?
So I guess the first thing to look at is if you can combo it with other ultimates.
Okay.
And again, it's all context. Like it really depends.
That's the word of the day.
Yeah, because you might be in a situation where you don't necessarily want to blow two ultimates.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, there's the classic Nano Blade, right?
Yes.
That's like the one where it's like, okay, you know what? Nano Blade is almost always a good call. Even if the enemies have beat or trance, it can still be countered. You can still kill squishies if it's done correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously there's moments where it makes sense to do a grab and you nano like a Rhine, and they don't have shatter, and you can just beat the shit out of them. There's lots of things to consider there. So I would say combos are probably the best, rather the first thing to think about.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, yeah, it's honestly just like a prioritized list.
Okay.
Where so I'm trying to think who's probably like the easiest person to nano. I would say Winston like probably tops my list.
Okay.
Who would it be for you?
I just generally look for mobile heroes that can actually capitalize on it. So
and that's probably the better way to think about it, is who can actually get into the fight and make sure they're contributing, right?
Mm-hmm. Who can contribute? So like a nano hog is fine, but hog it's gonna require him to hit hooks. You know what I'm saying? Like it's going to, like, I think the thing with nano is you always go, who do I know is going to be able to find value? Not the nano widow who may or may not hit a shot, not the nano Hanzo who may or may not be able to hit shots. Not the I'm trying to think of another example. The Nano Rhine. Nano Rhine's depending, it could be decent, but if there's a situation where they're running like dive tanks, he can't hit anything. They're all he's chasing them. But like a Winston, Genji, Tracer, Sombra, like they're gonna be able to get value out of it. That they're always gonna be able to get value out of it.
Yeah.
So
I know I like the way you put it. I think mobility is the right way to think about it. It's like who can actually get in there and actually do damage. And of course, you want to prioritize the characters who have like massive cleave and have the splash, like Zarya's and Rhines and Winston's. But they also have to be able to get in there. And let's say you have a character like Rhine who, yeah, maybe he won't get in there, but maybe you have a Lucio, and now you have to coordinate a bit more and say, okay, I'm going to nano you, Rhine, but yeah, Lucio, can you save Amp for getting in there? And that's obviously a whole nother thing.
Right. You scared me, though. You said Lucio. I'm like, no.